Another multiplication model that's often used is an area of an array. Now, this could be in the form of a rectangle because the way we find the area of a rectangle is length times width. And so we could realize that that's really multiplication, right? So we're just multiplying the length and the width. It doesn't necessarily have to be a rectangle though. It could just be objects that are formed into an array, meaning objects that are in rows and columns. So remember that our rows go horizontally, right? They go across, versus columns go vertically, right? Columns go up and down. So it is the common practice that we would use rows to describe the equation that's happening when we use this model. So this is really similar to the setup equation that we used for repeated sums. When we did repeated sums, we did the number of groups times the objects per group, right? Or the number of times that that object occurred in each group. And so we're essentially doing the same thing here. It's just our groups are rows, right? And so technically you could do columns, but the typical way that we do this is with rows. But it's the same idea, right? If I would say that my groups are rows, then I'm looking at how many objects are in each row, right? So if we look at this example, this says a high school band creates a formation on the football field of 5 rows, and there are 7 band members in each row. How many members are in the band's formation? So if you note that this is just multiplication, then we could just write our setup equation and solve it, and we don't necessarily need a picture. Some students, especially when you introduce this, would like that picture. So I'm just going to draw this, right? So this says that there are 5 rows. There's 7 band members in each row. So I'm just going to do like little stick figures. So like my first row, here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's my 7 band members in the first row. And then I'll go to the next row and I'll just keep doing this, right? Adding 7 band members to each row. So then finally we get to that last row, and so we can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and in each of our rows we have 7 members. And when we introduce this idea, we would typically show lots and lots of pictures of lots and lots of different examples and help students realize that we don't need to count, right? So we might start by counting, but we don't really need to count, especially when these get bigger. We don't want to have to count. We can just multiply, right? And so to start out, we would count, but eventually we want them to get to the idea that, okay, we have 5 rows, and we would just multiply that by, we have 7, in this case, band members per row. So again, your units are going to have that per part on it, and whatever comes after the word per is going to match the units here. And then just to set this up, I'm trying to find how many total members there are. But again, whatever the units are on the second factor is what the units are going to be on the product. So this would be my setup, and then I realized, hey, I don't have to count all those. I could just do 5 rows times 7 in each row. 5 times 7 is going to give me 35 band members.